Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the closing keynote for the second day of GCAP. My name's Raylene Knowles. I'm the COO at IGEA, for those I've not yet met. On behalf of the entire IGEA team, we hope you've enjoyed your second day. We certainly have, and so far it seems to be going relatively smoothly. I'm absolutely delighted today to introduce our keynote speaker, all the way from Helsinki, Finland, which is a place that I definitely want to visit. It's on my bucket list. So welcome to Timur Haussila, the product lead from the very well-known company Supercell. Timur, it's an honour to have you here today, and we appreciate you sharing your experiences of creating games that are played by hundreds of millions of players around the globe. We look forward to introducing you to this fantastic Australian community and sure you're going to enjoy your time that you spend with them. So with that, over to Timur. Please welcome Timur to the stage.
Hello, welcome everybody, and thank you for having the opportunity to be here today. It's a long way from Finland to come here, but it's definitely been worth it. So we've had 2 good days meeting friends, making friends, and of course, like for us also spending time with people from Ultimate Studios. Today I'm going to be talking to you mostly about new games. Why new games? Because that's my passion area. That's where I work the most. That's where I'm currently working. And also, what happens at Supercell is like we don't have PR, we don't have corporate communication to double check what we are talking about. So we always talk from our own perspective, how we see this, how we feel this. And I know that on many of these topics that I'm going to be talking, there could be other ways to describe it. Other people see the past differently, and we are definitely okay with that. But so it's my perspective, and I feel that way also there's a possibility to actually share something authentic that you could also enjoy and maybe even learn about. So briefly about the agenda that we're going to be talking today. So intro, talking about a bit about Supercell, who we are, a bit about my background, talk about this to maybe create some context for what I will be talking about. Then I'm using an analog of exploration when I talk about new game development or creation, when you're innovating, trying to create something that hasn't been done before. And then in the end, we're going to be talking a bit about how we form teams, what kind of disciplines are needed in the team, and how teams are managed in different stages of a life cycle. And if possible, in the end, I'm hoping to do a Q&A. The plush toys are here for that, so if we have time and if you make a question, you get a toy. Woo. So, Supercell. We are mobile developers. We come from Helsinki, founded in 2010, and just got the latest number that like we are 500 developers or people in the organization this week. Our offices are in Helsinki, Shanghai, Seoul, and San Francisco. Then we have a few remote teams in North America. The game development mostly happens in Helsinki, but in Shanghai we also have a few teams exploring new games. And the games that we published in the past are Heyday, Clash of Clans, Boom Beats, Clash Royale, and Brawl Stars. But of course, like on top of this, there's way more games that have been killed in late stage of beta, and even more games that have been killed early in the life cycle. And myself, I still tend to call myself a product manager, and that comes from my perspective, how I look at the game. And I think for me, product manager is somebody who has a holistic look at the game, so understands about the brand, understands about the design, also like the technical implementation, platform, of course, market, thinks what kind of response the game could have and how the response could be good over a long term. But what drives me there is actually the creative part and the work with the most creative people and finding the balance of like a business and creativity, and also combining business like kind of the holistic look there. Then I started my career 2009 at Digital Chocolate. So it's a US-based company, but they had acquired earlier a studio from Helsinki called Sumea. When I joined the company, we were still mostly focusing on making old-school mobile games, so mobile games for feature phones. And the markets were not actually players. The customers were not players. Customers were mostly operators. So we sold the games even before developing them. We made a nice pitch. We had some kind of rough idea what the game will be about in few bullets, and we sold the games to operators. Then we had 6 to 9 months to deliver the game. But at the same time, the Facebook gaming was becoming big. So on the very first day, I got put into a room, and my assignment together with the designer was to come up with a Facebook game. So very early on, I had a chance to start exploring the free-to-play gaming for casual audiences in West. The thing that I appreciated from the mobile side was that in 2 years, I managed to be part of 12 projects. So start to develop and ship 12 games. And I think it's going to be more games that I'm ever going to go through during the rest of my career. Because the life cycles were so short and we had overlapping productions going on. And for me, it gave a good opportunity to be involved with multiple brands, multiple gameplays. And though these were feature phone games or early iPhone games, I think still looking back to those, like we're proud of the games that we made. There were good products and good brands, good gameplays, a lot of innovation in the packages. But of course, like something that has helped me way more is the experience that I got from the Facebook games. And the big disruption that we started seeing happening there was that, like with a Facebook game, the system was changing quite a bit. So with these traditional games, the customers bought the games before we had developed, so there was a guarantee that we're going to ship and do pretty well. But suddenly we went to direct-to-consumer business, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and the whole kind of ecosystem changed radically. So before it had been business people pretty much deciding the direction, what we do, what kind of bets we take. But now it was the game team that was getting all the data. They were the ones that were actually seeing how players react what you do in the game. And that made a massive challenge to the organization. So the organization was a traditional top-down organization where the leadership was pretty much defining what to do. But suddenly we were in a state that the key information was with the team, but still the leadership tried to get involved and make the key decisions there. And that clearly kind of ended up in a conflict. And one of those reasons also was that many people departed us and eventually found Supercell. And that's also I joined them 1 year later when it became obvious that the organization where we had been wasn't able to adapt to the new system, new era. So I joined Supercell 1 year after they had founded the company, and there I've been having opportunities to work with a bunch of products. And so started with gunshine.net. So I'm sure many people don't know about it, but it's the original game that the company was founded for. Doesn't sound very Supercell. It's a post-apocalyptic MMO made on Flash for web browser. So there was a small pivot on the during the development, but still I joined the team because I saw that they understood where the industry is going, what kind of organization you need for that, and of course joined the team for the talent. Then after we made the small pivot, I had the opportunity to start the team for Heyday, Boombeats, but also in between I've been having different business development possibilities. So working with the investment team, working later with Supercell ID, now with some new stuff that's related to also Ultimate Studios. And some games have been really successful, like Heyday and Boombeats, but Gunshine.net, Everdale, and Heyday Pop, they went to beta, but never went through that. And I'm going to be speaking about that a bit more also later. So yeah, that's the topic already. So kind of the industry defined what we wanted to be. Basically kind of primary example for me was that Digital Chocolate we released a game on Facebook called Zombieland, and it took us quite some time to start understanding the KPIs that we were getting in our warehouses, data warehouses, and we started to simulate what's the lifetime value and how the game is going to perform in the future. We did spend like bunch of time iterating this, and then of course it was a corporation, so we had to make the goals for next quarter, and we did our analysis. We got our results, and then based on that I did kind of estimation, and we budgeted what's going to happen, and I budgeted the game is going to be declining. And of course the leadership wasn't able to approve that the game can decline, and so we went back to see like what we can do, and the answer from our side was like, there's nothing we can do. We're actually improving the game, so the decline isn't as sharp as it would otherwise. But anyways, it's going to be declining, and but still the kind of core organization wants to get involved, wanted to kind of have the control over the decision making. But the decisions that in this direct-to-consumer service model are actually the decisions that the game developers are making with their design choices. So the organization that was kind of planned for us how we can tackle this kind of challenge and actually take the best out of it is a kind of upside-down organization. So what we call on the top is sales, and the sales are independent. Sales are like mini companies, and they decide what to do. And the role of the leadership on the top, on the bottom, is to kind of facilitate the work of these sales. So they bring the resources needed for the development, and occasionally also, of course, like challenge the team what needs to be done. And they bring more information, but still it's the team always staying independent. And this is still the model that we believe in. The organization has grown, but it means that the sales have grown quite a bit. So even now we've been like internally talking quite a bit, and we see that we are just like strengthening with the sell model. So to the extent that we are now calling this like independent businesses. And one of the, especially in the beginning, like thing that was helping us quite a bit was that the sales structure allowed us to have multiple productions with a very small organization. A few reasons for that is that the decision making is fast, the learning is fast, so you can actually have a smaller team that is self-sufficient there making these decisions. So you don't always need to make a documentation, ask for approval, wait for the committee to approve what you want to do, but the decisions are made within the day. And with that speed, your speed to learn is actually faster than in most of the other organizations. And the speed of learning is, of course, one of the keys that you can succeed. Then a few things about like what are the things that drive us. Like we've had fair share of success, and of course like success in many terms is something that why we are here in the industry, but there are also more reasons for that. And we've tried to work on a kind of big bold vision, like where we want to be in 5 years, 10 years, come up with numbers, but it still goes down to the product, so game, that matters most for us. And that is the underlying motivation for most of us why we are in the company still. It's a bit long line of text, but it's something that we use a lot and refer a lot internally. So create games that create games. The purpose is that we create there's missing one. Create games that as many people as possible play for years and that are remembered forever. And if we start breaking this into pieces, what it means is that create games. Like first of all, it's like for us it means genre defining, and this is like our interpretation for ourselves. We know that this is not a definition of a great game. A great game can be something that a person creates for him or herself. It can be in different platforms. It can be offline, online. It can be physical or digital. But this is in the context of Supercell always. And what genre defining means, that it is that when you enter it, like it's what people are looking up for. Like, and the second thing, as many people as possible, so global scale. We try to make games that reach people across the world. We are not aiming games specifically for the US, Europe, Australia, or like Western market or emerging markets. So we try to make them as reachable as possible. Of course, it means that doing that, like we are not optimal in many cases for some markets, and the performance in one specific market could be better. But still, this is our approach. How we're going forward. Possible to play for years, and what that means is that we are creating lifetime services. With lifetime services, developing a game and proving that it's fun, that's kind of just part of the challenge, but actually making something that can be run for years it seems to be, with the old games, even a bigger challenge for us. And like we've been fairly successful for years, but we still feel that like we haven't really been able to deliver, and we haven't been able to give the best for our players. And forever, so maybe like games are not played forever, but like if you make cultural impact, the impact can last forever, and that is our dream. Like we want to see when we release games that games are played in many places, that people recognize them, and they leave some kind of mark to the history. And of course, the setup maybe like it isn't always the easiest. So it does create challenges for both people creating new game teams, and also when we are making decisions what to release. So many of us feel that is a challenging but inspiring starting point to create something new in this setup. But of course, it limits what you can make, and some people feel that the limit is too restricting for creativity. But that's why we speak openly about it, so that people understand the purpose of Supercell and understand if they are fit for that or not. But also the high barrier, high expectations, like sets kind of barrier, like what can we release? Like we've had multiple betas that most likely would have been released by most of the other publishers, but we feel that the games were not quite there. The numbers were okay, but they were not worth for us to begin kind of the investment for like 10 or 15 years to further develop it to become evergreen. And this alone, for some developers, can be tough because they want to see their games released and games playable. And we do acknowledge that. But it's from a company point of view, like we need to select what kind of complexity we are creating there. And like instead of providing players with our games that are quite making it, but taking our resources, we would be instead working on those titles than like working on kind of titles that actually could have a massive impact on players. Then the ideas that the team gets. There's something we say, at least internally, is that ideas don't really matter. It's all about the execution. And of course, like we don't truly stand behind that. Like you still need to have the ideas, the seeds that become something great. But ideas alone are worth very little if you don't have the team that can execute on those. Even like if you have a great team with a mediocre idea, they have a chance to turn that into success or iterate on the idea, pivot to do something else. But if you have a mediocre team with a great idea, the expectations are not super high because the team most likely won't be able to execute on top of that. And primary example, I think, in my case is, for example, Supercell. So it was from the day one, it was clear that the team is exceptionally good, but the idea was wrong. There was a wrong platform with a wrong game and some challenges with the technology, but still the team was super solid, and they were able to raise good funding and build team around them that can do pretty much whatever in whatever platform. And also internally, like we've seen this happening. So many of the great success cases that we've had came through a pivot. So it wasn't the original idea the team was working on, but the team actually during the way manage to learn something new. Of course, like good ideas, they do have value, exciting people and building momentum. That's usually what you need for the team to start working on something. So there is value, but in the end, the outcome is quite often something else than the idea. And kind of the process there is we see like creativity is often it is like when the team starts working, it's like you have a problem, then you think about the process. When you think about like how to tackle the problem, of course you have some expectation of the outcome, but it is like iterating these three things again and again and again. And this analog made a friend and colleague of mine. There's a really good GDC talk that goes deeper into the product design, made by Touko Tahkokallio. That if you're interested, you should check it out. But it's like he uses an analog of an exploration group in an unexplored world. That's like a life of a game team. So the game team or the group, they have a vision what to expect. Quite often they find something unexpected, and there's a high likelihood of failure. And what can be controlled by the team, by the group, is first of all, like it can be controlled that the team is good, so they have the right skills. They can learn from what they are doing in the exploration or in the development. And one critical thing there is the time. So you have a limited amount of resources to do exploration, innovation. Even in our case, like we are pretty strong with our financing, but still time is something that is critical for everybody to keep on the momentum. And the team, like if these 4 individuals there, they would be exploring all by themselves, not exploring together, they would most likely fail. So the team needs to have something that they believe in. And then while you started the exploration, you're having your journey, I think the key decision there is that you need to know when to step back, when do you need to reiterate your route, and also like when to stop it, like if it feels that you're going to succeed, rather than being there until the end and die or just getting burnout. Like it might make sense to reiterate. And the reiteration may happen with the team or with somebody else. And of course, in game development, like making this all happen at the same time, it's complex. With like we have multiple disciplines present there, and you have to be working on the problems with each discipline at the same time. And what we usually start with at Supercell, not always, it is the gameplay. Gameplay is something that matters us the most. Like if the gameplay isn't good, then nothing else matters. But then again, like you make a gameplay and you don't have a meta system there, the gameplay doesn't really have a purpose. You can do a hyper-casual game, it's fun, but why do you want to repeat it? Like why it can become more interesting, how it can evolve. So you need to keep that in mind from the day one. And also having these without vision on how the game will look like doesn't play out. And last but least is product. So you need to think that can the service or system that you're creating have demand. And the toughest part, I think, for us, I think for many of you, is the balance here. How can you balance? Like when do you focus on certain part and forget the others? Or can you even forget it? Can you just work on gameplay without thinking always on your back of your head what kind of impact that can have on the other systems? And in my experience, like we try to often focus on one area, but it's always the lunchtime discussions, evening beers or some other activities where you actually gone to the fantasy, what the game could be about. And I think this fantasy, where you're thinking where the creative work might be going, that's critical. Like because without that, you are not creating the shared vision for the game, and you're not able to actually think what kind of implications the minor adjustments you're making on the gameplay might have on the on how you should face the creative or IP challenges with the game. So yeah, you need to focus, but you need to be always aware the implications on other areas. Some examples like on projects that actually went pretty well on the starting points, a hypothesis. And these are kind of the starting points that made us commitment to start the development. So we start development not with a documentation, but with a team that is inspired to build something. So with the heyday, the pitch was, like, idea was pretty much this. Evergreen nostalgic farm, player is the character, so no avatar, touch native UI, and this is pretty bold from us, like we had no idea how to do it. We just felt that playing other games on iOS back then felt bad compared to the native feeling of using Apple-owned products. So it was a reference that like the game needs to feel at least as good as the Apple products. It was a complicated task because there was no back then documentation on how to do it. So a lot of iterations, a lot of learnings. But again, like that was the idea. And then the deep economy, that is the easier one. So a lot of references from other games, from other platforms. And we didn't have any other documentation before we started with the team, and it was pretty much the same team that managed to learn, fail, execute, and in the end deliver the game. With Boom Beach, starting point was there was a rough PowerPoint mechanic how to deploy a troop on the beach, just to get the feeling. And also the team, kind of sounds stupid, but like we didn't like Clash of Clans. Of course, it was hugely successful, but we felt that there's another game in the category that can be made. And if the attack is a bit different, it changes the dynamics. Then we felt that the matchmaking using a button doesn't feel good, so you want to have something more physical. And also we thought that the theme C archipelago is something that appeals to us. So we could actually do the matchmaking through that. Again, like no idea how to do it, but we started production with the idea that we can solve that. And then something that went completely wrong is the theme will be steampunk. During the first, I think, milestone where we did let the rest of the company to play the game, we got really good feedback from people who were not in the game team that the theme steampunk doesn't make sense. Like they didn't understand any of the references, and if the theme is so that it doesn't make the game actually more interesting and easier to play, I think, especially for casual audience, doesn't make sense. Then Everdale, we started just with a prototype that we had a massive map where you have different villages and you can pinch out and pinch in, just zoom and see how it feels like. And there we started Voyage with the hypothesis that we want to do a like massive simulation game without conflicts, with deep social mechanics. The supply chains need to be real time and long, and the key of the game is in co-op. And from the day one, we knew like many issues in this category in these games. We managed to solve many of them, but not all of them. We did take a lot of new learnings, and Metacore, company that is our partner, is continuing the work and exploring the different opportunities there. Then the last example from my own experience is like Heyday Puzzle. There was a Heyday Puzzle game named Heyday Pop. Original idea was that like Heyday brand should be good fitted there, but the deeper we went there, the bigger problems we actually saw with the brand. That Heyday brand is about animals, but if you want to make a deep puzzle game that has a backstory, you need to have strong characters. Then we assumed that we could be actually making good puzzles. To some extent we validated, but after making like myself 150 puzzle levels, I clearly saw that I wasn't good in that, or didn't have the passion in that. So we got learnings that entering to new categories that you need to be more humble. So yeah, in brief, we select teams, not ideas. And something originally that we, in a company that we thought is like instead of teams, we had best developers or best individuals make the best games, and we proved that wrong pretty fast. Kind of the first batch of teams that we had did cooperate super well, but then when we started mixing things up, we saw that it's not really a effort of an individual. That you need to have a team that can work together and pull it together. So we are strong believers of like a team as whole. And in our way, the teams are very equal in the sense that everybody has chance to contribute and discuss, and everybody is acknowledged. But we know that it works for us coming from where we are. But even within Supercell now, like getting studio in Shanghai, some operations in North America, we know that the model is not something that suits for everybody. And even internally in Helsinki, we see nowadays different operations. So the model how you operate and run the team, of course, depends on the individuals you have there. But still, in any case, the team needs to be solid. Yeah. Then like, what is the team? So I'm highlighting a bit the need of like the different disciplines that has already been mentioned earlier. And to emphasize that I'm talking about skills, so not about individuals, that you need to have an individual for every different kind of discipline here. So in a small team that is prototyping, working on something on early stage, often the size can be 3, 4. So everybody's wearing multiple hats. And of course, the bigger the team gets, the maybe more specialized people you also get there. But still, at least in our case, we always have people wearing multiple hats present in the games. And these are the disciplines that we've listed for ourselves that need to be validated, that are in the team before we actually allow the team to continue. So of course, gameplay, as mentioned, like everything where we are starts from a gameplay. There are categories where the gameplay isn't as meaningful, but where we are, it is all about that. And for us, gameplay, it's not just about, let's say, if we have a character control game, it's not the controls or how the character moves, but it's everything around, like the interactions and all the kind of emphasizes that tells you feedback how you're doing in the game. Meta is kind of creating, of course, there needs to be people that understand how you can create more meaning around the gameplay. It's a premises that the game is built on so that it can be developed for years and be played for years. And it's also a system that unfolds. It keeps players curious over the years, like what could be built on top of that. It's sort of like a player fantasy there with the systems. So creative and IP, of course, it is not just the visuals, it is the story, it is the world, it is the lore, it is pretty much everything that you can see there. And there, the barrier for us is high. It needs to be something that appeals to the global audience. Typically, in our case, we've been pretty weak on the kind of IP and creative in the beginning of our life cycle. So we heavily focus on the gameplay and meta, but we have still ideas of the IP, but it just goes through tons of iterations during the development, and it's not really until the final stage when it starts like looking how it should be. And the reason for this is that we feel that if the policy is too high, we don't have a chance to reiterate the gameplay and the meta. So you're kind of locked in where you are. And yeah, product. Some people think about the holistic look of the kind of game design, game development, and the market. Leadership. So we are flat, but still somebody needs to be there to make the final calls. If there's a split decision in the team, it's easier if somebody has the authority to decide what to do. We emphasize there the discussion still, the team should be deciding what to do, but in the end, there's somebody always who has the authority. And kind of the leadership position for us is not something that you hold forever. It's always based on the team where you are and what kind of team you have around. So let's say you are a game lead in a live game, or you've just shipped a new game. It might be that in the next project, you don't want to be a lead anymore because there's, in your opinion, somebody better, or there's seen more value in you being just an artist specialized in that craft, or a programmer. So we see the roles rotating quite a bit. Execution. So execution it means that, like, in our terminology, that people are know how to ship, how to deliver. So often you're in an in-between area, you don't know really what to do. So if you have a practice of, like, you want to ship something, you have the passion to actually get it running and touch instead of just talk about it, design it. We feel that that's critical to be proven in a game team. Of course, like, it doesn't mean that it only comes with experience, but with experienced developers, at least you can see that which of the developers have done it in the past. So they have passion to actually get shit done. And size. So the size of the team and the needs for the size, of course, varies a lot. But the more you are exploring, the smaller the team needs to be. Like, if you build a big team, it starts almost working like a factory. And you can do, of course, changes, you can do pivots, but the more resources it takes to do these changes. And in our cases, like, what it means that if the game development goes well and you start increasing the team, and then you get some hiccups, so you understand you need to make changes, we often decrease the game team size to very small so that these changes can be implemented and tested, and then the team is grown again. And kind of where how do we create these new teams? And we have two approaches, so formalized and unformalized. So formalized means that, first of all, we need to have some kind of a way for everybody working in game team to be involved in making new games. Because, like, for many of us, for developers, the dream is to make new games. And if you come and join us, it's most likely that you join a live game team. But there still needs to be the way that you can be enjoying the craft, enjoying the innovation. And also, like, with a formalized way, we can get a bit more junior people experience of creating new experiences, but also for us to learn about the new candidates that could, like, bring a more diverse group of developers working on these new titles. And then the second thing is unformalized. So, like, how do we build these unformalized teams? It's like we don't build them, they get built. That people talk with each other, they do some prototypes, they share some kind of passion, they have the initial idea that might change, but at least there's something that makes them a team. And when there's a good opportunity, then we allow the team to operate independently. We've tried to formalize the new game development for years, but we always fail on that because it feels that it's something that cannot really be controlled. This is a bit of the kind of journey in the different stages. Like, of course, like, we start with prototyping, think about what the core experience can be, what the gameplay can be, like fantasizing of the final product. And when we validate that the prototype, the gameplay is something that can be scalable, then we bring the team and start kind of the proper development. And there we do a bunch of validation internally, of course, and then later with friends and family to see if there is something that we should invest more into. If we feel confident about the team and about the direction, then we start looking for market validation. And with market validations, until lately, we always used to do kind of open the game in certain markets. But with the past games, we've done closed betas on some markets using Android. And the reason to do closed betas there is that we can actually wipe the progress system. When we used to do kind of soft launches, we still kept the servers up after the soft launch, and that had a major impact on the kind of game team development speed. So we feel that we are going close betas there, let it run for 2-3 weeks, get the learnings, and then apply the learnings to make the game better. And and once we see that the game is there, the numbers are there, then we take the big step and start working on the global release. It's been quite a few years for us to do a global release, so it's exciting to see like when and how we do the next. But of course, like at least like a half of our resources we are still constantly put into a new game development, because we know that it's of course important for us to stay relevant, but it's also kind of passion how we want to run the company, not just enjoy the success of the old games, but it's all, we want to enjoy that success, but also on top of that build new experiences. And maybe kind of the thinking like how we make it work. So we have very little processes there. We have very little kind of internal deadlines that teams need to make, or but it's all based pretty much on one word, and it's trust that we talk a lot about. Like it's something that, of course, the developers, when you join the company, you need to earn it, but also company needs to trust the people that join the company so that they're given the opportunity to show it. And like if we make this cycle to work properly, then we are able to actually in a better position to create these teams that can overachieve the expectations typically in the industry. But like a challenge in the organization, of course, is like it doesn't scale forever. That like we have a relatively low hierarchy in the new game side, and there is a like certain size that we can get in Helsinki and in the other studios. So we've seen that like for us, one way to scale is that we started to do investments quite some time ago. So investing to teams to get an opportunity to grow, and to invest in a team that can actually use similar approach that we have with a high level of ambition on the game development. And with these investments, the idea always has been that like we're investing to companies that we feel that are equals. So we never invest to a team and feel that we can actually build them or we can nurture them or guide them to succeed. So it's quite the opposite. We try to find companies that can help us to learn, that they do something different, maybe regarding the games or the platforms, the technology, or just the way they are. And like we can be inspired from that and learn from that. And these are a list of games that companies that we've invested during the past years. Some of them smaller, some of them bigger, but still all full of very talented founders. And of course, super happy of Ultimate here. So maybe the like investing company that I'm spending most time with, especially in the future. But also like great companies and great products already coming from the other platform companies. I'm ending my presentation here. I'm hoping that like you will have like a lot of questions still about the topics that I've been discussing about, and again, like if you make a question, you get a plus toy. All right, thank you. One over there. Please wait for the microphone.
Hello.
Cool. Hello. Do you ever find your developers sort of becoming crippled by the success of the games that have come before? Do you ever feel that it's becoming harder for them to sort of get that success again in the next games that they're doing?
There's loads of echo. It's really hard to hear it. Did you hear the question? Because there's a lot of echo in the sound, like when I hear it. I didn't get the question.
Okay, sorry.
No, there's audio guys. Can you do something for the?
So my question was, do you ever find your developers becoming crippled trying to achieve the success of the games that have come before?
Yes and no. People do end up to positions like when you work on a new game that it feels overwhelming. But I think that's good. Like that sets a barrier. Like if it feels that it's too much for you at that point in your life, then like you have other opportunities in live games. And it's a barrier that we've discussed for the past 12 years. And like after our first successes, like we had a few-day workshop about this topic, that do we only need to make games that become super successful? Like, can we make on smaller titles, premium games on mobile, like something that would still like be positive, like, but like not as massive as our existing games. But then we went down to the model that like how big we want to be on head count. Like if we feel that we want to be making these small games, it would mean that we would actually need to have like 10 times more developers to be able to still get the like, kind of business scale. So we made a commitment with everybody in-house back then that like, no, like this is how Supercell operates. Like we have a definition of a good game for us, and it's a good game that has the potential to become one of like top games on mobile. And it is intriguing occasionally, but then again, it's a test, like should you be working on a new game or not? Back there, on the right side.
So you mentioned that Supercell has a very high internal bar for a new game. Is that the same with like your external venture arm? Like, do you have to meet the same internal bar for a Supercell game to invest in like an external team? Or is there a different metric that you follow for those types of investments?
With the external teams, like it is the same. So external teams in our case means that we invest in a company. And the external team there is always operationally independent to make their decisions. And with them, of course, like it's like we are certain that like they are going to make the decision making based on priorities, and they have the urgency. And the urgency comes naturally by the cash that they have available. So we know that they're like they are eager to make tough calls. They are eager to work hard to achieve the validation that they're a good team. And with the external teams also, like what we do is the validation is not that you ship something, that you become always successful. We understand that the validation can be something that you validate yourself as a team. You tried something, but it just didn't work out. But still, it doesn't mean that it's a failure as an investment, and we wouldn't be committed to that. I think. Okay, there's still, yeah, lady over there.
Hello. During the ideation phase, I'm curious, what's the process and departments involved to decide whether an idea works or not?
The process hasn't really evolved. We've tried to create a process about it. I talked about like, and I think in the creative industry, like we know that it's something that we should invest in, and we invest in a lot, and it takes a lot of resources. And it's something that takes a lot of resources and has a lot of upside. You try to somehow label it, categorize it, manage it, but in the end, it's a creative process. So there's not much we can do, or we have been able to do. One thing that has changed is, of course, that in the beginning, like the urgency came from the cash. That we knew that like we're going to run out of money eventually. Like if we're going to ship games, like we had a year and a half time to deliver something, and everybody in the company knew that like we are approaching that point. So the urgency for many like came from that, and now maybe where we are, of course still the urgency comes from many developers, as it should. Like you should be urgent, like how you spend your time. Like if you want to be making games that have impact, the time is actually the biggest constraint that you have there. But it feels that occasionally also like we should have some other constraints, and we'll be discussing about this, like time or even like budget allocation, like the team could decide what to do there. But still, we haven't taken any actions, but it remains pretty much the same as it was. So like CEO greenlights a team, and then the team is independent. And even like one example of the independence of the past was that in Boom Beach, like the CEO wanted to kill the game, but the team did stand out. Like if you kill the game, like the next day you can also change the company culture deck. And then say the response was like, okay, I sleep over. And next morning was like, okay, I take back my words. But like the team needs to be accountable, and everybody should be coming to meet me in 2 weeks. Then you present the changes to the team, and you need to believe truly to the team and to the direction you are going. And then with the team, we went through an exercise. Some left, most stayed, and managed to kind of parse together a good design and in the end execute. But again, like it's a team decision.
Hi. You mentioned that there was a process for the informal forming of teams. Are there events or ways that Supercell encourages mixing between all the members to allow those teams to form organically?
Sorry, again, did you hear it? There's a lot of echo, and it's very hard.
Is there any processes for mixes or events that allows teams to form organically?
Yeah. So the process to allow teams to form organically. Actually, lately, like during past year, we've had 2 game jams, and the intention has not to do anything that would be direct to like one-to-one, like valuable for the company. So, but actually jam on something that you can just craft. So I think people from accounting did a paperclip prototype on something. And it's not going to go to production, but they managed to bond and got some people from game team also to get involved. So yeah, we have those activities related to game design, but also like many other activities, social activities where people get to know each other. So we know that there's multiple values there. One is that with this, like you get to know each other and the people that you would like to maybe work with, but of course, knowing each other also creates a lot of trust in the organization. So it manages us to stay leaner. I think we are running out of questions. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the questions. And I think there was still a public announcement coming.
Thank you so much, Timur, and the Ultimate and Supercell Powerhouse does not stop here. Just outside the plenary, we have prepared the Ultimate Social event. The Ultimate Social is a new event as part of GCAP that offers a low-key networking event, fully non-alcoholic, with delicious desserts to enjoy. We'd like to express our immense gratitude to both Ultimate Studios and Supercell, who have come together this year to help us deliver our vision of empowering the Australian game development community. So please join us there. It'll be running from 6 to 8 with a short introduction from Tony Lay. We'll see you there, and a quick reminder that tomorrow keynotes will be held upstairs in rooms 110 and 109. Thank you.